right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. For those of you who are in the prayers, thank you for joining us for Saturday morning prayers. Let's just see real quick. News, updates. Let's let some people pile in. If you haven't subscribed to Patristic Faith YouTube, please do. Like this video. Leave a comment for the algorithm too. And let us begin. Don't forget, Mauricio, what is the Orthodox stance? Well, we don't speculate on the state of one's soul after death, so they're unconfessed. It's and demons will use your unconfessed sins. That doesn't mean you're not going to be saved. It's just, well, again, we don't speculate on that other than it's not, we want to be able to confess all of our sins. And that's often why we pray. Look, it's not a legalistic issue like, oh, well, are they going to be weighed and found wanting and stuff like that? Well, yeah, Padre Pio is a heretic, so I wouldn't get my theology from a heretic and weirdo, stigmata weirdo. Anyways, demons will accuse you. So that's what Hamid is talking about. The toll house is. But that doesn't mean it does anything to you. You have to think about this ontologically, which means the being of yourself. The problem isn't we're going to die, it's we're going to live forever. And how you are when you die is how you're going to be for eternity. And how whether you have things within you that are changing your soul and the character, the state of your character, so that you'll be unable to experience the glories of God, is bliss. Whether how well you'll be able to receive those, at what level you experience but it's not scales and add up the merits versus demerits and sins and stuff like that. So it's a very papist way of thinking. In fact, it's a Protestant way of thinking too. It's just Protestants reject that's the case, but they conceptually and ideologically and protesting think that's what salvation is. Well, no way man could merit or do any works or anything like that. So Christ has to impute his righteousness and declare one righteous or damned. Well, that's a juridical meritorious model, that works are merits and not pathways to ontological changes and acquiring the virtues. Yeah, they think Christ merited. Yeah, that's a great point. That's crazy. Like, the proper place of confidence in the spiritual life. That's a good question. We're never to be confident in the sense of Do you have a doctrine of assurance that you're going to be saved? However, let's see. Here's the tricky part. Like the words of St. Suleiman, keep your mind in hell and despair not. So if you read the pre-communion prayers, let me see if I can find the one I'm talking about. It's a sharp, like, knife edge that you have to balance between acknowledging your wretchedness and there's no way to know that you're saved, and yet hoping in God's mercy. So notice hope is different than confidence or assurance. Hold on a second. I'm trying to find the prayer, the pre-communion prayer that kind of demonstrates what I'm talking about. The problem is, again, one of judgment. So we were talking about yesterday, we're asked not to judge. That doesn't mean not being able to point out or identify sin in society or an individual or in oneself, but it's the judgment of, but the eternal state of their soul. And that includes us as well. So we can hope in God's mercy and believe in it while suspending judgment and saying, I don't know. I believe God, but I can't be the judge and make any confident assurance that I will be saved. All right, one second. I'll read some of these. Here's St. Basil. I have sinned, O Lord, I have sinned before heaven and earth, before thy face, and I am not worthy to look upon the heights of thy glory. I have provoked thy goodness and transgressed the commands. I have not obeyed thy statute, but, O Lord, since thou dost not remember evil, but art long-suffering and of great mercy, thou hast not given me over to destruction and lawlessness, but hast awaited my conversion. O lover of mankind, that is said by the prophets, I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but the wicked turn. For thou dost not wish, O Master, the work of thy hand should perish, neither dost thou take pleasure in the destruction of man. Thou desirest that all men to be saved. So first we start off with the acknowledgement of our sin, and then we start believing in what we know about God and his desires and mercy. Let's see. Moving on. Moving on. Here's the fourth prayer. There's a specific prayer I have in mind. Maybe it's this one right here. Shoot. I might have to grab. The problem is I'm using a book that I don't use for reading my prayers, so I'm having a hard time finding it. Let me pull the book real quick that I normally use. I can find it easier. But good question. This is the one I use for prayers. Here's one. I know, O Savior, that no one has sinned against you or committed such deeds as I have, but I also know the greatness of my trespasses and multitude of my sins do not surpass the great patience of my God, nor his sublime love for mankind. In your everlasting compassion, you cleanse, you illumine, you unite to him the light of him who fervently repents, that he may partake without envy of your divinity. So you'll notice in that, there is no judgment or confidence that you will, but there's the hope in God and the prayer and petition to him that unite me to you. Also think about what it would do to you as far as working out your salvation, fear and trembling, if you had assurance or had confidence in your own salvation. It would destroy you. It would send you to probably to hell. So that's another good maybe it's this one right here. Because it talks about there's no hope of salvation in me, right? So, but then it turns it over to the hope in God. Yes. Here. Be merciful to me, O Lord. I'm not only weak, but I'm also your creation. Lord, you've instilled the fear of you in me. Still I've done wrong in your sight. I sinned against none other than you, but I beseech you, do not put your servant on trial. If you never overlooked my sins, Lord, who could survive? I've reached the very depths of sin. I'm not worthy to look upon or gaze the heights of heaven, because every multitude of my numerous sins, every evil work, imagination, diabolic scheme, and all the wickedness haze which leads to sin, physical delights, and other innumerable pleasures, all have found place in me. What form of sin has not defiled me? What evil have I not been ensnared? I've committed every sin. I've allowed every unforgivable pleasures to enter my soul. I've made myself worthless before God and before man. I've fallen to such a depth of evil sin. Who will raise me up? So there's no confidence in your salvation through you. For my God, I place my hope in you. If there still exists a hope of salvation. So notice no confidence in that. No assurance. Because if there is still a hope of salvation for me, then let your love for mankind overcome the multitude of my transgressions. Be my Savior, and in your goodness and mercy loosen, forgive, and remit all in which I have sinned against you. For my soul has been filled with many evils, and there's no hope of salvation in me. Have mercy on me, O God, in your goodness, do not punish me as my sins deserve, but turn to me, be my support, deliver my soul from the evils which have grown inside of it, and from all which is accumulated. Have mercy on me in your goodness, for wherever sin has been multiplied, may there be the abundance of your grace. So there you go. That's a perfect explanation of the fine line. The hope in God, yet suspending of judgment, that and the acknowledging there really isn't any hope of salvation. But I believe, I hope in God, and you cry out to him in faith. Does that make sense? All right, let's see. I want to read some shout outs. Super chat shout outs, because I saw some came in. Dave the Philippian donates $10, our usual supporter and contributor. Thank you, David. And then I saw somebody else. Daniel Lemon. What's wrong with tritheism, both philosophically and theologically? Well, first of all, theologically, it would mean it's polytheistic. And we believe in one God. So theologically, philosophically, it's incoherent. As well, is one God of the tritheism more or less than the other? Are they identical? Are they all? Do they all have the properties of theism? And so philosophically, it just collapses. It's like, well, they really aren't distinct, and almost like a principle, Leibnizian principle, the indiscernibly identicals. If the three all have the properties of being God, summum bonum, omniscient, and stuff like that, and there's nothing that distinguishes them, then they're not three, they're one. So it's philosophically incoherent. And if they are distinguishable, then one is greater than the other, and the others aren't God. It's a pretty easy... I mean, these are kind of just famous and well-known critiques of polytheism. Good question. David James asks, what's a good rebuttal of an atheist who says logic is merely descriptive and not prescriptive? Two issues. Ought I to believe that that's true? If they say no, then it's self-refuting. If they say yes, it's self-refuting. And number two, anybody can just make words come out of their mouth and unjustified assertions. How do they know that? Without begging the question. So it begs the question, and then it's also self-refuting. And Mormons are crazy because their God is, they're like demigods. They're not eternal. They're created. So they got a polytheistic demigod mess. So, in some sense, David, logic is mind-dependent, but it's not subjective. It's an objective, universal phenomenon. Why? Okay, so logic is abstract, universal, invariant, and normative. That's why I said if somebody says it's just descriptive and not prescriptive, you could just go through the logic, and then I ought not to follow logic. There's no... Now, let's look at those properties. Immaterial, abstract, universal, invariant, and normative. Those are things that's, right? It's conceptual. It involves concepts, universals, etc. Those are things that belong to the mind. Not because the mind creates them, right? But those are the things in which, for example, where do concepts or universals exist? Do you walk out of the door and trip over a concept or universal? No, they imply mind. Yet they're not conventional. Why? Because they're invariant. You can't change. So, although they all imply mind and right, concepts, universals, stuff like that, those all necessitate mind. You could erase everybody's mind, or like all minds could die. I mean, everybody could die. There's no minds left. That wouldn't mean the logical laws no longer exist. These are all like Plato arguments. My godson sending me the funeral for Father Wayne Wilson that we're praying for. Memory eternal. May he repose where the blessed saints reside. Amen. All of which suggests remember St. Paul says, in him we move, live, and have our being, that these are grounded in God, the mind of God. Yeah, these arguments are really easy. And again, just because what all these people do, David, is they tell a made-up story. Well, it's actually this. This is what happens, and this is how. That's just an unjust right assertion. Well, how do you know that? Well, because if my story's true, then I had to explain it, so it's circular. And yeah, I wrote my thesis on emergentism, and emergentism is going to explain logic. Could it be otherwise? Because logic's also necessary. Where... Well, I don't want to it gets kind of complicated, but yeah, it doesn't work. I don't know. Phenomenal conservatism. So you're speaking of the philosophy of mind, not philosophy in general. It's funny because my wife and I were talking about, on the drive back home from Kalispell, phenomenal conservatism. So, you guys, is anybody familiar with phenomenal conservatism? Hello? Um, the reason why this came up, we're having a conversation with people. We're saying that's my experience. I think this goes back to, maybe you guys know this. There's like those YouTube videos of where this guy's debating pro-tranny stuff, and these transformers, mentally ill people come on, and I think the guy's Catholic, and he's just like, no, it's a mental illness. He's like, you're mentally ill. Like, he's really just kind of non-emotional, really logical, distinct, doesn't back down. And they were like, I noticed they were like, no, because it's my experience. My experience of, and so there's this kind of existential relativism or something like that I noticed. I'm like, that's kind of linked to phenomenal conservatism. So an experience is some type of qualitative, how it appears, how it feels. It's non-doxaxic, meaning it's not a proposition or something. Like, I'm just having this experience, right? So in some sense, it's more basic than propositions. And beliefs and things like that. Okay. So phenomenal conservatism is basically assumes every seen or appearing qualitative experience is basic in that in the sense that it implied beliefs or concepts. However, every seen or appearing is a seen as that's an argument that I was making. So basically, how can I... It kind of goes back to Descartes. So, I'm having an immediate experience of greenness, cupness, shapeness, and stuff like that. Then I might imply from that certain beliefs. Oh, it's a coffee cup that is green. But there's a more kind of basic experience of what it's like. Now, Descartes says, well, how could that be wrong? You might be wrong in your judgment or what you infer from that it is a coffee cup, or et cetera, et cetera. But experience doesn't make any judgment. It's immediately presenting itself. So that's what experience is. The way it looks to you, the way it feels to you, that's a separate category than, yeah, but is it really that way? So, furthermore, only propositions can be true or false. Not even all sentences. This is why we say all propositions are sentences, but not all sentences are true and false, or propositions. Proposition is defined as a sentence that can be true or false. But let me give you an example of a bunch of sentences that aren't. Would you stop it? True or false? That's a sentence. Go to your room. True or false? Let me think of another. There's a whole host of sentences that are sentences, but they don't have the grammatical or logical property, the way they're structured, of being true or false. Okay. So, if that's true, and that's a level up from immediate qualitative experiences, the argument is that, well, in a phenomenal qualitative state, i.e. the experience, there's nothing to be true or false about it. That's what it is. You're either having the experience or you're not having the experience. So phenomenal conservatism then wants to use that as a justification. That's the basicality in epistemology and your kind of first principle. It couldn't be wrong. It's indubitable. And then, therefore, inferences from that can be justified. So it's a type of foundationalism. Does that make sense? I didn't think most people... Yeah, it is a tortoise. Exactly. It's self-evident, but not in terms of propositions, but the experience itself. My argument refuting phenomenal conservatism. I believe this example is from Siegel. Okay, so my argument is basically that experiences can be corrupted and any inferences would not be justified. Okay, so suppose, for instance, that Jill, for no good reason, thinks that Jack is angry. Now, second supposition, let's suppose she's unjustified in thinking this. If Jill then makes further additional inferences from the belief that Jack is angry, obviously those conclusions will also be unjustified. But now suppose that Jill's belief that Jack is angry, causes Jill to see, here's the phenomenal conservatism, so those prior beliefs that are unjustified then contaminate the phenomenal experience. So that she now sees Jack's facial expression as one of anger. This seen as this phenomenal conservatism, it's not a belief but a kind of experience. That is, Jack's face just looks to Jill like an angry face. This, however, a misinterpretation on Jill's part, and any ordinary observer without any pre-existing beliefs about Jack's emotional state, so ceteris paribus, would not see Jack's face as looking angry. But Jill is not aware that her perception has been influenced by her belief in this way, nor has she have any defeaters. Now that's important too, because a lot of the arguments in epistemology is if something appears a certain way or is self-presenting. I'm trying to think of all the different examples. And you don't have any reasons to think it's false, you don't have any defeaters, then it's justified. Now, of course, I always ask, like, well, where'd you come up with that? Because it sounds nice, and we may operate this way on our day-to-day basis and even in our epistemology. But when you take it back another level, but what's the justification for that? Well, it just is. Anyways, if phenomenal conservatism is true, Jill will now have justification for believing that Jack is angry. Because that's what phenomenal conservatism, like the appearing, the experience, the immediate basic experience can't be wrong, and so your inference from that would obviously be justified. But we have two problems. We have a problem here, but she's not justified in doing that. But phenomenal conservatism will say that Jill now has justification for believing Jack is angry. arising directly from the mere appearance of Jack's being angry. So you have a contradiction within this. Not only is it obviously just patently false, that it's like, well, there's a problem there. She's not justified. We also have a contradiction, a direct contradiction. Phenomenal conservatism is she's both justified and unjustified. That's my argument. Also, a lot of these arguments against phenomenal conservatism appeal to kind of like Salesian, what's the word I want to use? Oh, like they fall victim to Sellers' myth of the given and the kind of arguments developed in epistemic kind of holism. Because notice some of these problems is theory contamination, concept contamination. Like, anyways, that is all. Again, one of the ways there's different ways that you can kind of refute something or win the argument against atheists, but the easiest way is you're literally just making up stuff without, because like you said, they're trying to get around the fact that logic's universal. Now, of course, we could go, well, then we could change it. Or it could change. Do you know what it reminds me of? It's like, if logic is not universal, first of all, then you can't that everything would be incommensurate in terms of meaning. The inability to translate. So the fact that it's like Wittgenstein, there's no private language. The fact that we can understand and translate others' language means there's a universality of logic. Number two, there would be no it means it's self-defeating. Well, if it isn't universal, there's not something that's abstract, transcendent, stands over and above merely the people's state of their brains or what we decide, then one's logic's no better. I mean, what are you going to appeal to if I make a bad argument? Other than just description. Well, it doesn't fit I'll just be like, well, our group had an emergent phenomenon of this new logic that says your logic's wrong. Do you see the problem there is that they forfeit debate. There's nothing universally binding on, so just be like, yeah, I have a different logic. And my logic says that it's superior to yours and that yours is wrong. And because you don't believe that logic's universal, there's nothing that you could appeal to. There's the similar arguments. Because what they're saying is it's logic epistemically is relative or subjective. Then you have the same criticisms that are mounted against ethical relativism and subjectivism. Well, if that's true, then each person or each group of people is the standard. So you forfeit the debate. Because why? Well, just like ethically, you can't say that it's wrong for you to experiment on innocent people. But like, no, it's not. That's your standard. You see, our standard, our society, that's actually a virtue. Like, there's nothing to appeal to. Also, it's logically contradictory too. Just like, why? Because if it means that if it's not universal, and it means each group of people or group of minds or each individual, so either relative or subjective, is the standard, the epistemic standard. That's just the definitionally true if it's not universal. Well, if that's true, again, then you have to admit a contradiction. Because let's say my logic says that that principle is false. But because you believe that each person, their mind, or the group of people is the standard, you have to admit what? That I am both right and wrong. Bam, refuted. Contradiction right there. But I was saying there's an easier way to go through and say, you're just making a bunch of unjustified assertions. Prove it. And what we find, they either move to another premise that's unjustified, that depends on another one, or they go in a circle. And I want to bring this up because I've now actually, I know you guys are going to like this, one of the pieces of news I want to share with you. Yes, I finally published my paper so that it's available for all of you, to my most recent paper to read and view. Heads up, it's very technical. This wasn't like the previous paper, was more kind of approachable. It was going through some kind of technical issues and epistemology from different groups. Wi-Fi Gospel donates $5. I have a possible 2 versus 2 against some atheists. One of them holds to PC, just throwing... Okay. Thank you. Alright, let me share with you. Because it relates to the reason I'm bringing this up. There it is. Epistemic theories and meta-theoretical validation. This is Father Deacon's most recent paper that he presented at... I know, it's me, but I'm just reading you that he presented at the Society for Orthodox Philosophers in America Sophia Conference this February in Houston. I chose this photo because... I will see if you guys can figure out why I created this thumbnail and how it relates to the paper, but I thought it was apt. So it has to do with theories, right? Epistemic theories. And then how you verify the theory. That's called meta-theoretical validation. What I argue is the fundamental premises of an epistemic theory. So they're giving whether it's phenomenal conservative with some atheist saying logic's not unit, whatever their theory is. There can be fundamental premises of the theory. So either they can't be justified because they're merely assumed. Usually the case, right? Well, I just assume them without any supplementary warrant. Or they are justified because of other premises. And then you're going to be like I said, if you ask them, well, how do you know that? And they're going to say something. They're going to give you another premise. Well, how do you know that? Well, either that leads back to the theory itself. Well, because, grant me my theory, if my theory is true, then my theory would explain and justify that premise. That's epistemic circularity. Or it gives rise to an endless chain of reasons in which the justification for each premise presupposes justification of the previous premises and so on ad infinitum. And so this is not a new problem. This is what's called one of the Pyrrhean skeptics, Agrippa, the Agrippa trilemma. So you could just stick generally with everybody's going to fall into this. Either their beliefs are unsupported, well, then you obviously don't have knowledge as if your beliefs are unsupported. We'll talk about their theory. Their beliefs are supported by an infinite chain of beliefs, obviously not justified. Or their beliefs are supported by a circular chain of reasoning. Okay? So that applies to exactly what we're talking about here with these. So it's pretty easy techniques that no matter how fancy a polemicist and a sophist somebody may be, it's always going to reduce to those. All right, moving on to... And there's the other critiques of just foundationalism. And there's critiques of foundationalism in this paper. Varieties of foundationalism. And all the theories that kind of go through internalism and externalism. Some people have even tried to basically have non-inferential justifications, and something that they created, one of the things out there is foundational reliabilism, and so this was supposedly got out of, like, some of my objections might not have applied in the way, basically they might have been directed simply at inferential theories that hold to inferential justification, more kind of classical views of foundationalism, but it didn't answer reliabilism. So what I did is, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe some of these critiques that I made isn't, one epistemic theory might be more vulnerable than another. Maybe one that doesn't really apply because they don't believe that. That doesn't mean that the overall it just means, okay, well, here's one of your problems then. And all of these, then I can move into what is, at a different level, what's called meta-theoretical validation. So how do you justify the theory itself without engaging in those three things? You're not going to be able to get out of it. And all this is kind of various smaller arguments within the overall kind of tag that these are all problems of autonomous epistemology. What if the atheist says logic's based in reality, physical nature, which could... Well, what if you just say it's not? Like, again, it's exactly like when Jay and I have the X spaces. Like, we're not asking you to give what your belief is, but whether it's true and what the justification for that is. Well, what if logic is actually ice cream sandwiches from a prehistoric, like, what do we say that, like, that's what people always in the Discord, what do we say if a person says, I don't know, tell them to shut up. Just quit making noises. Like, do you have to answer everybody because they make a mythological story or make something up? Like, that's not an object. The fact that somebody can make noises out of their mouths or make up a made-up story is not an argument. So what's the argument? What's the justification for that being true? That's not going to be either an infinite regress, viciously circular, epistemic circularity, or just merely unjustified. So one of the problems is people think that You have to stoop to their level and play their arbitrary made-up game. Well, you have to answer this. It's like, I don't have to do a dang thing. You didn't provide an argument. You just made a bunch of assertions. I don't have to answer assertions. That's what... Now, there are easy ways to refute that. But I would actually... It might be good not to actually provide the refutations for that, so to get them to realize what they're... Like, I'm not playing your stupid made-up game or entertaining some stupid fantasy story that you made in your mind. It's not an argument. The easiest refutation is... you believe in accidentalism. Accidentalism is a refutation for anything that you say. There's no accidental natures, no physical laws, nor anything that they're saying about logic. So they can't make any... They can't even tell the story from accidentalism. So, all right. I think we got another super chat. Wi-Fi Gospel donates $5. Super chat, thank you. When using phenomenal concerns as a validation for fallibilism, is it valid to ask for a specific level of justification that distinguishes belief from knowledge? Of course, yeah. So now you're asking, so they're not like the Cartesian infallibilists, but they're like, you could be wrong, but they're giving it justification. Okay. So a couple different ways to go. Like I said, you could go with the paper that I wrote. You can move away from the kind of first order content that the theory is talking about and talk about the second order kind of what's the theory itself and how the meta-theoretical validation would occur without falling into the Agrippa's trilemma as far as justifying the theory. But yeah, the other way too is like, we'll give just what specific level of justification distinguishes belief from knowledge. If it's fallible, infallibilism gets away from a specific level, but nobody believes in Cartesian indubitable. I want to talk about that because I think even most people are not putting forth the theory. I've seen this surface its nasty Cartesian head over and over again within young people and inquirers in Orthodoxy. I want to talk about it in a second. But Bonjour talks about this issue. Okay, so let's say knowledge is something like true justified belief. So you have to have some kind of justification. So Wi-Fi Gospel is asking, okay, but what qualifies as the justification for... Well, if it's not infallibilism of Cartesian, then it's obviously more probable than not. It could be wrong, right? So as soon as you commit to fallibilism, you can say, I could be wrong, but it could still be justified. I have enough reasons. I mean, think about an ordinary kind of case. Suppose it's really true that your neighbor's a creeper. Okay, so that's a truth condition. And you believe that he's a creeper. Let's say you have justification for that. Evidence. It's like, I don't know, like, he's got a creeper van. He likes to dress up as clown. He hangs around schoolyards. He has a criminal record. Like, right. Soon enough, you might actually have enough evidence. It's like, yeah, I guess you could be wrong about it, but you're certainly warranted and justified in believing that. So as long as it's actually true, you don't have to have infallible, indubitable knowledge that it's true. It just needs to be true. And you have enough. So what Jacob's asking is, okay, well, how much is enough? 51% likelihood? 75? I mean, when is something enough, and how would you know it? So it pushes the question back. And the problem with that, too, is, especially in terms of the Gettier problem, that points out maybe a fourth condition to knowledge is that knowledge can't be accidental. You can't accidentally get it right. Well, wait a minute. If you move away from Cartesian infallibilism, which we certainly want to, because if we held to that kind of stricter standard, there's really hardly anything you would know. So that's counterintuitive, and nobody would really want that, and nobody does want that. Then, okay, so it's probability, that it's more likely, you have more evidence than not, etc., which seems to be more intuitive, that we would suggest that, and then, we've got a problem here. Well, then, doesn't that always make knowledge somewhat accidental? I accidentally got it right by 75%. Do you see what I mean? And so that ends up being a problem too. So Jib asks, donates $5. What if the fallacy of the phenomenal conservatives reject specific level of justification? So they say, I don't know, there isn't a number. That's a good point. It can't be quantified. I like that. I think a lot of things are intuitive like that. However, even though it can't be quantified, it's still a probability of some sort and still accidental. And furthermore, it just, okay, it can't be quantified. But how is your theory going to tell me when it is? So that's the other argument. But fine, I don't have to put a number on it. But you're still going to have to tell me, how do I know that's an instance of it and that's not? That's not enough and that is. Without begging the question. Wi-Fi gospel at $5. Doesn't divine revelation produce knowledge of Cartesian infallible? Then we build second order off that? No, it doesn't. The reason Cartesian infallible is all knowledge must be, we Orthodox don't believe that. Divine revelation is not going to infallibly tell you some math that I don't know, that there's a solution to Fermat's last theorem. Or that I actually got some empirical belief correct. Like, we're all in the same boat with... Now, at the meta-theoretic level, is orthodoxy true? Is that infallible? Well, yeah, because it's either that or nothing. But that's not Cartesian infallibilism. Cartesian infallibilism says all knowledge must be not just meta-theoretic validation of one theory, orthodoxy, but that all knowledge. And divine revelation, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm getting divine revelation. I'm infallibly knowing everything in this book. I couldn't be wrong about anything. Divine revelation doesn't do that. It's not intending to do that. We're all in the same boat when it comes to first order knowledge and kind of day-to-day things that would qualify as knowledge. A good question. Randy West donates $1. Thank you, Randy. Yeah, that's another Jib. $5. Best way to address infallibles PCs acid. Somebody holds to justify true belief theory. How can you be certain? Well, that you're getting to what I'm going into the paper. So I'll play devil's advocate. Well, you're assuming that I have to be. You're assuming already a Cartesian infallibilist. A Cartesian infallibilism would be in order to have. You have knowledge if and only if it's absolutely certain. But my theory, I'm a fallibilist. Why are you throwing me into? That's not my definition of knowledge, that it has to be infallible, or that I have to have certainty. So as long as JTB is true, I believe it to be true, the belief condition, the truth condition, and I have reasonable evidence, or I'm warranted, I'm justified, then I have knowledge of JTB. How's that? Now, there is this weird, we have a tendency to fall back on Cartesian infallibility in this. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is there's elements of fallibilism that are true, just like there's elements of Plato, the Stoics, Aristotle that are true. It's just ultimately can't justify that. I find it weird and incorrect to have this kind of, in order for this Cartesian infallibilism. So I think the fallibilist is correct in their critiques, but they can't ultimately justify it at the meta-theoretic level. Does that make sense? Now, this comes back up. Let's see. Wi-Fi Gospel donates $5. In Bonjour's paper, he argues for infallibilism without saying we can know all things. I'd have to see how he's redefined. Does he actually say I subscribe to infallibilism? If he does, he's redefining it. Because infallibilism isn't saying that, as far as I remember, yeah, that is tricky. Depends on how he's defining it, because a fallibilist would probably say there is no knowledge that's infallible. So I think Bonjour is probably correct that you could say, well, I'm an infallibilist in the sense that that is not a necessary condition for knowledge, is it must be infallible, but I do believe there are items of knowledge that are infallible. That's probably what, and I'd probably agree with that. Obviously I do, because I believe the meta-theoretical validation of the argument for tag, the Orthodox paradigm, is infallible. Yet, I believe that almost all of our knowledge, apart from that, is infallible, is fallible. Okay, so let's go into how this Cartesianism rears its ugly epistemic head among a lot of people in Orthodoxy. Because I was talking to some of the priests about this issue that comes up with a lot of the young guys. Okay. Think about this with regards to tag. Does tag prove God's existence? All right. Typically, well, I'll give the argument. And regardless of whether I believe it's infallible or not, does it prove God's existence? Well, it depends on what you mean prove. Prove is a sort of kind of, at least colloquially understood, is an argument that would give me knowledge that God and Orthodoxy exist. So I present the argument. And people are like, yeah, well, how do we know? But what if the atheist just says this? It's all throughout Discord. If you want to find these things, just go into Discord, our Discord, and the philosophy chat. 30 times a day for the last, I don't know how long we've been around this, 6-7 years. What if the atheist says that logic? What do we say, Father? What do we say if? So, how do we know it actually works unless I've answered every single possible objection? Now, I do realize that I've presented the argument in terms of the impossibility of the contrary. Okay. However, it doesn't even need to be that way. You know, I could talk about accidentalism. I could talk about the positive attributes and condition that provide justification. The Orthodoxy provides justification that it's true, and that we haven't seen. Maybe there is one. Like I could make those arguments. Maybe there is one out there. The question is Orthodoxy true? How do I know that? And what we always get, unless you can go in every nook and cranny empirically and discovery all throughout human history and eliminate every possible ability, or eliminate every possible objection on the internet, and not only that, but modally and logically possible. How do I know I've gotten an infinite logically possible world in which I've answered every single objection? What if somebody created an objection that I couldn't answer? Therefore, you can't know. Well, what is that showing you? First of all, that's insane. That's a fallacy of the unreasonable standard. Wait, if that's true, you don't know anything. Okay. The question is it enough? Is it sufficient? Think about. So, no, this only applies with God. Well, why uniquely God? Why not I'm always using the example of the gas station next door. But I don't know if it's a real gas station. You mean, how do I know that it's not just a facade and there's nothing actually? Oh, well, then somebody's like, well, because you go in there. Yeah, but they all could be actors, you see. How do I know the food they're selling at the gas station is real? Well, because you ate one. Yeah, but that was just that one. I haven't eaten every single piece. And how do I know, even if I did, that they wouldn't replace it with fake stuff the next. How do I even know the gas station is real? How do I know that they're not going to actually blow? How am I know my car's not going to blow? And I'm going through this. Okay, I believe that it's real right now, but when I drive away, I'm not empirically sensing it. And so I don't even know if it's there. How do I verify? So let's say I'm really spurging out on this gas station. And I'm like, I just can't know that it's there. I can't know it's real gas. I can't know that they're in. It all could be. And then you calm me down in my tism. And you're like, okay, yeah, you're right. And then what happens? The next day, I'm like, yeah, but how do I answer this? An atheist said, gas stations aren't even blah, blah, blah. How do I answer? And how do I know that I've gotten every possible, unless I've eliminated every possible objection that could ever be, I can't know it's a gas station. You would think that I need to be committed to a loony bin. Nobody holds that. That's this is what would happen if you applied Cartesian indubitability. I can only know something if I have absolute certitude, which would mean that you'd have to eliminate not only every actual objection existing throughout human history, but every logically possible objection and into the future too, in all possible worlds, which you could never do, in order to have knowledge. That's crazy. So you would not know anything. And you see that if my application of this in real life, you would actually say, like, the person is insane. There would be need to be committed to a mental hospital. Now, what's interesting, you would say, well, as long as you have as long as you have enough. I mean, we say that you can, you know that it's sufficient, right? Now, what the history of philosophy will teach you, you have far less justification for the things that you claim to know in your normal, mundane life than God. But for some reason, in order to know the Orthodoxy treatment of God, we have to have the same standard. The same standard that would land you in a loony bin in the real world is now expected for God and tag. So it's Cartesian indubitability gone mad. Like, it's surfacing its ugly epistemic head in Orthodoxy. It's insanity. Now, does it mean that I could provide and have? I think I have. But the fact that you think that you can't know that Orthodoxy is true and the other religions are false, and that Christ is God, without doing this is a mental health problem. Because you have far more sufficient evidence and warrant, and therefore true justified belief than not, than the other things. So that's one thing that I want to talk about that unlisted load. Now, I actually believe it does do that. But I'm saying, if you think that you're pressuring me in thinking that in order for you to know that or the argument has to do that, you're way off base, if not having mental health problems. When epistemology goes wrong, and you jeopardize your mental health. Alyssa Logos says, Jay talked about how there's only a few different starting points, even if there might be an infinite amount of positions. Yeah, I call it this. Those infinite positions are decorations on the cake. There's only so many kind of basic principles. And so I don't need to go through every decoration that somebody could add on a cake to know that it's a cake. Yeah, but look at it. They put chocolate icing. No, we didn't answer that. It's still a cake. They're non-essential things to, and you can boil everything down to, and I have in the paper, all positions, an infinite amount of positions modally will reduce to only two, basically three options. Autonomous epistemology, but autonomous epistemology admits that accidentalism might be possible. So really, even if somebody believes in God and they're using autonomous epistemology, it'll still reduce back down to the only two options, regardless of all the different decorations and things and words and arguments and objections you can come up with. It would always be either intentionalism, revelatory theism, or accidentalism. Because the third option, well, I don't believe in accidentalism, but do you believe that it's possible? If you don't believe that it's possible, at least implicitly, then you're saying your starting point and your first principle is that God is the necessary condition for the possibility. And congratulations, that's that. So it's pretty easy. Now, again, once you get that, okay, well, what are the religions that are claimed to be revealed? You've got a handful of those. Islam, not Buddhism because it's not theistic. Hinduism, Mormonism, Talmudic Judaism, Islam, Christianity, and then you have Orthodoxy, Protestantism, and Roman Catholicism. Did I miss any? But you see what I mean. You can go through. Now I can eliminate a bunch of those by just showing that Trinity is necessary. So I eliminated all non-Trinitarian religions. Then I simply show part of the paradigm is that in Revelation is that God's revealing himself in history. So if you have one that's even Trinitarian, that it's like, well, that doesn't match history, and part of the revelation and the paradigm is the historical revelation, that then you can eliminate that. And then finally you can eliminate Roman Catholicism because it doesn't have the energies doctrine. So why is that important? Because it's not simply about what serves to be the necessary condition of the possibility of knowledge, but how I obtain that. And as I brought up in Aquinas's one of his objections, which he just hand waves in the response, but I think it's a good objection. Let's see if I... 1 second. I took a photo of... I pull it up on the computer. Objection 3. For Article 2. This is Aquinas' objection. Further, If the existence of God were demonstrated, this can only be from his effects. But his effects are not proportionate to him, since he is infinite and his effects are finite. Now notice that word, what does infinite mean? It's the opposite category, not finite. And between the finite and the infinite, there is no proportion. In other words, there's no bridge. Therefore, since a cause cannot be demonstrated by an effect not proportionate to it, it seems the existence of God cannot be demonstrated. It's a great objection. And he was like, well, basically the hand wave is, well, it's not perfect, but as long as... yeah, but that's just an ad hoc. That's what's questioned. What is the bridge? Like, what is the bridge? So, anytime that you have two opposite categories, whether you relate them causally, logically, epistemologically, you have to have a mean proportional. You have to have a bridge by which, if two things are opposites, that I can get from this to that. And in Roman Catholic theology, there is none. You have to reason mentally from effects to a cause, which assumes a whole bunch of stuff about causality you can never justify. And it's arbitrary and either circular or infinite regress. But the objection still stands. God is utterly transcendent, infinite, in the opposite category of this. And you're saying, well, I can just reason through cause and effect. No. So the energies are the mean proportional between the two, the infinite and the finite. Because we say that God is utterly transcendent, infinite, but he's immanent. He's in creation. So that I can immediately say, I don't have to reason through causality. It says all men know that St. Paul says God's existence is clearly seen, not reasoned through cosmological arguments. Seen through what? Creation. In creation. He's saying you're seeing God while being able to separate between creator and created, such that all men are without excuse. Not just people who read Aquinas' 5 ways or done cosmology. All men, even infants. All humans. So, the reason why we can obtain the necessary conditions for the possibility of knowledge is because of the divine energy. God is immanent, and all things, created things, move, live, and have their being in God because God is in them and all things in God. So, only orthodoxy. Does that make sense? I avoid the terms natural, go to accidentalism. Because then you got to walk through all the things of naturalism and every... yeah, but what does it boil down to? That's why that's the best argument. And all these goofuses, these pseudo-intellectuals that are working in groups with philosophy professors and stuff like that, and then pawning off as their own arguments, are getting lost in the epistemological, losing the epistemological forest, the bigger question for the epistemological tree. Well, what if I just do this and tweak this? Well, your objection doesn't stand on the first and second order objection. Okay, maybe not for your made-up theory your arbitrary theory that now is the new in vogue theory in epistemology. Congratulations. You still don't get out of the accidentalism argument. So not having essence that leads Catholics not being able to relate the finite. Yeah, exactly. So if God the infinite is the necessary condition, sure, that's it. You just never know it. You can never validate it. If you can never validate it, right, you can't give me a theory, a meta-theoretical account this is what we mean by grounding, the necessary conditions of knowledge without falling into the Agrippa trilemma. Okay. Oh, Zoroastrianism. Yeah, that might. Okay, what I want to bring up, though, somebody brought up this objection. I've heard this a couple different times. What about this? The whatabouts? How would you answer? Am I justified or not? Like, are you Cartesian infallibilist? How would you respond to the objection that an unknown religion could be the necessary being to count for knowledge reason? Well, I didn't argue that religion or God, in the general sense, was a necessary condition. I didn't argue for that. I argued for revelatory theism, a historical revelatory theism. Otherwise, we fall into the exclusive disjunction. So, an unknown religion is not a known revealed religion. And I'd shown in the papers, its revelatory theism was shown to be necessary. Now, people do get this confused and think, I'm not saying personally and subjectively revealed. I said historically, publicly. But then the person asks, what do you mean by revealed? I mean, you could look just the lexical definition. What was publicly unknown or not seen becoming known. So it already has the notion of to be revealed, to be shown. What was unknown, to be shown publicly. So yeah, an unknown, unrevealed religion can't be a revealed religion. Orthodoxy fills all the necessary conditions for the possibility of knowledge. So yes, there's an element to part of the argument is impossibility of the contrary. But what if I never even went that way? What if I just said, yeah, but it fulfills all the necessary conditions for the possible. It does the job. If it does the job, then I'm justified in making that claim. I don't have to be like, well, what about this? What's really interesting, part of the claim is that Orthodoxy uniquely fulfills that and excludes the others. So it's exclusive. So if that's enough, if the conditions are enough to satisfy knowledge, and part of it reflectively is saying, but it's exclusively true, then I'm justified, and I don't have to even go through the impossibility of the contrary. People miss that. I can exclude all the rest by the direct positive account because it fulfills all. So then somebody's like, well, how do we know that? What if there was a religion that does the exact same thing? Well, then it's a copy and paste. You can't simply copy and paste Orthodoxy in a hypothetical realm of some unknown religion. Well, obviously copy and paste is not historical. Part of the conditions is it's historical and publicly revealed. That's one problem. Yeah, but mine does that too. Okay. Well, then one of two things, because somebody asked, well, if it's a copy and paste, wouldn't that falsify Orthodoxy? Well, no. Wait a minute. Which one's real? The copy or the real thing? So how can a copy refute the real thing that it's copied from? That doesn't... But do you see how hard these people are just trying to find a what if somebody says that's the mental health problem and spiritual problem right there? I can see it. But yeah, you can't copy and paste orthodoxy. Oh, it's identical in every way. Then by the principle of indiscernible identicals, then it's not a separate religion. It was like the tritheism they were talking about. It's not three, then it's one. In this case, there's not a copy. It is the religion, dummy. Well, how do we define... The person asks... And I get this all the time in Discord. Well, what do you mean by justification? What do you mean by essence? What do you mean by revelation? As if I have some weird special notion that I'm sneaking in to win my argument. Oh, it's the common, just kind of a generic notion of what these terms mean. Why do you keep thinking I'm sneaking in a special... What does that say? That's really interesting. There's no special or particular way revelation is being defined here. The common notion. That's why in these arguments, I'm like, I'll give you whatever your theory is of justification and knowledge. I'll keep it general enough. I don't... And you know what's interesting? Bonjour does the same thing. So we have these goofuses, these suits basically coming up and saying that, no, you're particularly committed to a view. Like, what view is it? You have to commit to a view because your argument... No, you're forcing me into a corner that I don't have to do. Like, who says I have to do that? You? Who are you? Now, I might have a particular view that I'm more sympathetic to or something like that. But making tag does not have to commit. And it's disingenuous because epistemologists all the time are saying, we can talk about these issues and make arguments, conclusive arguments in terms of epistemology without committing to a particular view. Oh, so all the epistemologists can do that, but Father Deaconitis can't. Why? Because if he does, it'll mean my position is wrong. That's disingenuous, and I saw it from a million miles away. It's what I call the all for thee, none for me fallacy. Yeah, justify that. Well, why is that the case? A common enough notion of knowledge or revelation is fine. It works. If it works, I don't have to be forced into, you have to name you're committed to a particular view in the argument itself. I'm not. The definition of reveal simply states to make something that was hidden or unknown publicly known or seen. Literally out of the dictionary, lexical. Which explains, just from the common colloquial, vulgar kind of understanding or lexical understanding, revelation, there's no such thing as a secret, hidden, unknown, revealed religion. That definitionally. Literally a contradiction. The unrevealed, revealed religion. What about the unrevealed, revealed? Have you considered that option? And like I said, copy and paste don't work because copy means it's not the original. It's not the real thing. Also, all of that just falls right into autonomous epistemology. When you do a copy and paste, guess what you're doing? You're system building. Copy and paste is not what's revealed. It's what you're doing. You're the starting point. Your arguments and logic, those are all the starting point, which are unjustified. So it misses. You can also know that there's no such thing, religion that exists, because it's logically impossible. You can't have a copy and paste. You can't have A, and A says not B. And an identical religion B that says not A. That's a logical contradiction. You're saying A and not A, B and not B. So you could avoid the logical contradiction and be like, well, A and B are the same, but if they don't exclude each other, saying uniquely so, then they're identical, and there's only one religion. The principality of indiscernibility of identical. Like, well, you just talk about orthodoxy at that point. There's nothing separate. Alright, so I go on to say, therefore, since orthodoxy exists, and notice that's what we're starting with. We're starting with the historical reality. We can ask the question, well, how do I know that, and what? But there is a sort of temporal starting point. And it's not in our minds, it's not a speculative, it's these people said these things. This happened. Is it true? There was this institution. They claim these things. There were these bishops. There were these fathers. Is what they're saying is true? Start with the history and quit starting an abstract, ethereal, man-made, right, system, an algorithm. This is what these people are thinking. They're thinking too left brain, and they're in their own minds. As if tag's just another argument in philosophy or epistemology. It's start with. The reason why the argument doesn't work is because, well, I plugged this in and the formula worked. All of it is get your feet on the ground. These things happen in history. This is what's being said. Is it true? And how do we know it? Orthodoxy exists. The question is it true or not? Then you can look. It's logically impossible that there be an identical religion that claims to uniquely, excluding all others, right, satisfy all the necessary conditions of knowledge without being orthodoxy itself. So therefore it's not distinct. Then you're talking about orthodoxy. Congratulations. Which explains why you've never found another religion that satisfies all these requirements. So you can just stop, like, how do we know? That's how, because orthodoxy is here and it's satisfied. There is no other religion. There's no history, like part of that is starting with the historical. Does that make sense? Okay, let's see. The analogy of being, that's where he says it's just imperfect. That just moves the question back, or that's the ad hoc rescue. But that's what's in question. An analogy requires a proportional. Well, it's just not a perfect proportion. Yeah, but what is the being? Yeah, but infinite being and finite being, created being, are opposite categories. That's why none of Aquinas' objections answer this. So analogia entes doesn't answer the problem. That's what's actually in question. Well, it's analogia ente. No, but it isn't. You just admit there is no purport. Do you see what the issue is? The other thing we started figuring out, is that the reason why Jay and I talked about this, We want to bring people onto X Spaces or, oh, Dale is $20. Awesome. Thank you, Father. Thank you. Or let's say in the VC Chat Discord is you can't use Chat GPT. People started using Chat GPT. Or a crew of people that can go over and work, like, what is your argument? Come and defend it. Yeah, forgive me. I'm doing another live course. I've been really busy. You know, like the first thing was to get that paper out and present it. That's over. I've already started building the epistemology course, so I've just got to choose a day and get enough people interested that it's worthwhile doing the Canvas course on that. I hope to get that up, at least completed next week sometime, and then we can choose a date. But if you guys are interested in that, let me know. I think I have like 3 or 4 people who are interested in. Maybe if we get one more, we can do it. 1 or 2 more. There are payment plans, so don't... Yeah. We should make a tag AI. Well, Grok is doing it now. Grok learned. The way out, unlisted, does indeterminate found in quantum mechanics undermine the determination of classical physics? So the way out of this is to take more of an instrumentalist or metaphysical quietist view. Or like in philosophy of mind. So you could even take an ontological view and just take us like the semantics and descriptions just going to be different. So it uses different language. So at the macro level, we talk about things using a different language, categorically different language than you do at the micro level. So it doesn't mean that... So that quantum mechanics and determinism and the determinate class, you could just say that, well, they're just different types of language to describe the same reality. One on a macro level, one on a micro level. Or you could take that it's not describing anything about much about reality at all, because that's not the purpose of science. The purpose of science is a pragmatic, kind of instrumental view, so we stay metaphysically quiet. Is the world actually at the lower level indeterminate, or is it like Newtonian physics indeterminate? You could just be like, I don't know, I'm metaphysically quiet about it, it doesn't matter. I can get along perfectly well with science. So the problem with the theory of everything trying to do this is some underlying kind of assumption, ontological and metaphysical assumptions about the philosophy of science. That science is naively or critically realist position of actually attempting to describe reality. Like, you could just be like, or you could go the linguistic and just be like, they're different languages and rules kind of for different levels of description. Good question. We haven't got to the new... What's going on? Are we going to do our Twitter, Facebook review? What is going on? Oh, friend from Thomas Aquinas writing me. All right, ready? Are you ready for review? And there's different views of quantum mechanics too. There's a deterministic and indeterministic. One is just the Heisenberg. It's terms of epistemic indeterminism, but not actual causal. So I mean, there's just a variety of different. And then, yeah, some people will say allows for free will. That was already in. What's stupid about that, though, is that. By the way, this was already in. Was it Lucretius or Epicurus? Epictetus. Epicurus. What explains free, like, so if you have this deterministic world, what explains free will? Because free will is the opposite of determinism. Oh, it's like he says, the atoms swerve. There's like randomly. That goes all the way back to. So all these principles of like quantum mechanics, they're all back even as far back as the ancient Greeks. The problem with that is that's not what we mean. We don't mean free will is indeterminate and random. When you do something, you're just like, if I ask you why you do it, oh, no reason. Just randomly happened. Free will implies intention. The opposite of indeterminate, the opposite of randomness. So one of the problems is they're already committing the either or fallacy that, well, something's either determinate or it's random, indeterminate. Who said that? Who made that up? The devil, that's who. Well, I don't believe that. There's a third option. Free will. Or will. Will is neither determined, nor is it random. You have a reason to do, and your reason, you could have multiple reasons to do something. You need a reason to do something, but it doesn't mean that the reason determined you to. So it's, for example, I use this example in logic class a couple weeks ago. Your will always requires a reason, logically and motivationally, but it doesn't determine you. You have a reason why you want to go to college. Maybe multiple reasons. There's multiple things that could have motivated you. One of them is I had a role model, and they inspired me to. I use that, and that's why I came to. Well, you're telling me if you bought into the false dialectic between the either or, well, it's either you're either determined, everything's determined, or it's random, indeterminate. You're saying because of a role model existed, you have no like free will, like it literally determined you to. No. So the problem is we're thinking of the reasons up here that you down here make an action through your will, right? Determine you, because you always have a reason to do something. But really, flip it this way. You're thinking about it upside down. You are up here. The reasons are here. You look down at the reasons and go, I'm choosing that one. Why? Because I'm free. The choice, by definition, is nothing determines your choice, but your choice always chooses something. Therefore, there's the third category. Isn't that cool? Your will is free. It's not random. It's not swerve. It's not random quantum mechanics. It explains will and free will. It's you. It's the very notion of that's what free will is. Okay, so yeah, glad you found that helpful. Let's do our review. Face off news. Face news. Face news. What do we got? Swan got into Yale Divinity School. God help you. I wouldn't encourage anybody going to Yale or Harvard. Swan's a good guy, but pray for that dude. Pray that he becomes Orthodox, I hope he is, but he's a good heart. What is going on here? J Dar got a haircut. Look at it. That's Hesher. I haven't seen him for a while. It's cool. High school in the 90s. That's when I grew up. Let's see what this is like.
I said a hip hop, the hip it, the hip it to the hip hop. You don't stop the rocker to the bang bang boogie. Say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie beat. Now what you hear is not a test. I'm rapping to
That's
the beat.
90s.
And me, the groove, and my friends are gonna try to move your feet. You see, I am one. I said a hip hop.
Metal dude. Metal dude. Have I been to this monastery? I think I have. Let me see. Oh, that's great. Butte, America. St. Paul's and Irvine. You still using my phone? My Romanian brothers here. Brother clergy. Părinte Silviu. Thank you. All right, come on. Why does this guy sound familiar? Andrew Bailey. Andrew Bailey. I know this guy. Where do I know him from? Anybody? Brett Michaels, 62. That's how old I am, 62. We're the same age. That's where I was. That's where I just got back. Look how beautiful this is. Whitefish. Isn't that cool? Everybody in the 80s having their birthday today. This has got to be a joke. D. Snyder. Twisted Sister. We're not gonna take it. No. We're not gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. Raymond Zarek. Well, he's dead. What is... I met him. Ew! Look at that thing. That's crazy. Where is this? I can't figure out. I think we're gonna have to go to Twitter X to get... to get some controversial news. You guys don't read Romanian, do you? Oh, man. We have a cat like that. That was incredible. Do it again. Oh, my gosh. I'm going to teach my cat to do that. Look at that thing. Whoa. Amazing. Amazing animals, aren't they? That is... How does it get it to do... My cats do weird stuff like that with those little... What amazing animals, aren't they? Yeah. What a great video. I've seen my cats do this before at my parents' house. There's no way. Wow. That was awesome. Let's go to X. See what's going on. Oh, that's an interesting point. Discovers Orthodoxy one of two ways: the correct worship, or history, the slow route. Huh, what do you guys think about that? Well, I found it through just going through all the logical arguments in every possible world, and just plugging in the numbers, and then I did Bayesian analysis of that, and I just obviously from my autonomous epistemology just logically concluded, right? What say you? What does that mean? Your will, alignment, telemetry is the essence of who you are. It's not thoughts. Well, I think it's both those are incorrect. Will is a property of essence and nature. Will is not who you are. It belongs to the essence, so categorically that's incorrect. And the person, which is distinct from the essence, the person has an essence, is the one who wills by the property of the essence, one of the properties being will. So, just as thoughts, mind is a property of your essence, so is will, but it's the person who thinks and wills. Everybody's birthday this year. Yeah, sometimes Facebook has chill content. But Facebook is just really like, I would never put anything salty on Facebook. Like, it's just people can't handle it. And I'm more reluctant for some reason to block people on Facebook than it's just, I'd rather have it just kind of a nice space. I don't debate things. I don't post anything controversial on Facebook. I use X for that. And I'm more ready to block somebody. Yeah, Facebook can't handle salt. All right. I want to do an awesome upcoming movie review. Nick Cage. No, that's not how I do it. How do I do Nick Cage? Loose pocket. No, I can't do it. I can't get into my Nick Cage. So we'll watch one of Nick Cage's new movies coming up that maybe you don't know about. It's a great horror movie. Hold on a second. The Surfer. So I was immediately drawn to this. Looks awesome.
You can't stop a wave. Born in a storm, way out to sea. Pure energy. And it's all building to this breaking point.
Hey! Uncle's Army!
I grew up here.
Don't live here, don't surf here.
Hey, Dad.
It's okay. You're scaring my boy.
Now. No need for all this fuss. Listen to me, brother. I know it's smart to lose face in front of your boy, but you gotta know when to back down, or it could get a whole lot worse.
This is a special place for us. It was magic here when I was your age. My old house is finally for sale, and I'm buying it.
Just want to go home now.
Wake up.
Locals only. Don't live here, don't surf here.
It's not surfing.
You reckon?
What's the view for locals only as well? Hey!
Men are like engines. You've got to release a little steam now and then or you'll blow up.
That's my board, and I want it back.
Listen, mate, I think you've been out in the sun too long.
No, my father gave me that board.
I can tell you myself, that old board's been up there for as long as I can remember.
She's a beaut, isn't she?
I'm not trying to be cruel.
We don't belong here anymore.
All I want is to take my son surfing.
Don't get yourself down. Before you can have everything, you have to experience nothing.
What?
Pathetic.
Yes.
That's a good one.
I love these Nick Cage movies like Mandy, for example, is kind of, so you've got this notion of the occult mixed into both these movies, right? It's a horror movie. It's a psychological terror movie. And what's really cool about both, and I haven't seen this yet, but it has the same kind of vibe as Mandy is. The good guys are the good guys, and the bad guys are the bad guys. The occult in these are not glorified. They're actually represented accurately as malicious and bad and evil. Nick Cage is the kind of run-of-the-mill character, so you're able to identify with him. And he's no more or less than us, right? So we identify. And then the tragedy befalls, right? The evil, the occult, these groups attack him. And then what's cool about in both, what looks like, obviously both these movies, is the notion of justice. That the average man, the average Joe, you and me, Nick Cage, perseveres through the evil and seeks vengeance upon them and retribution, and there's this justice. So that's my review of the trailer there, and it looks like a great film. Yeah, he does well in horror movies. Longlegs was great, total different kind of Nick Cage in that, but yeah, I just found that. Let's see if we got any more super chats. I never want to leave any guys out. Thank you so much for your support. All right, let's review a little bit more of X, and then Bayes, Serbia. Oh, speaking of, oh, this is literally the story you were telling me about. Your husband's a hell. Who's this guy, by the way? That's crazy. That's the actual story that... Yeah. Seriously. Seriously. Hey guys, guys, my base pagan ancestors had it right, even though they converted. Jesus wasn't white and probably wasn't even real, am I right? What? No, of course. You don't have to stop living any more lifestyle. This is just Christianity trying to start. Yeah. Joke. Why would a 3-year difference? By the way, this is an interesting topic. You do know there's canons and prescriptions on... I don't think you can separate the religious from the secular. Okay? We're not Protestants. We don't live in these two worlds, two kingdoms. There are prescriptions in Orthodoxy about age difference. This is a great topic. I'm glad we found something. If that standard's true, in Orthodoxy, it's true as an ideal for all marriages. Okay? So, let's get into it. Because I know a lot of this stuff's been going around on the internet. First of all, do not listen to Lady. Lady do not know what they're talking about on these things. What are your thoughts? Do you think Orthodoxy has rules and canons and guidelines on age difference? Let's do a poll. All right. Who are we talking about here? He took a turn. Oh, TikTok Bishop, yeah. Oh, Sam. 5 votes. Come on, we've got 44 people in here. Come on, guys. Nine. Who's AP again? Oh, Apostate Prophet. %71% so far say yes. 29% say no. $17 votes. Come on, guys. What's your intuition tell you? Do you find it weird that somebody much older dates a young girl? Of age, of course, legally. How many do we have now? 17 votes? We're still stuck on, like, come on, give... It's anonymous. You know, nobody's going to know who... And then this is going to demonstrate something. Once I give you the answer. $18 votes, 72, 28%. Do one more. Let's do a 19 vote. One more vote, and we'll reveal, which means to publicly show something that was unknown previously to be known and seen. See there? One more, come on. There's 42 of you in here, and we have less than half people voting. I mean, what kind of spread is that? There we go. Correct answer? First, 68% says yes, but no. The answer is yes. There are canons on that. And in fact, the rule and the guideline, 10 year, no more than 10 years difference. A priest is not supposed to marry and would need to get the blessing of the bishop. If there's a 10-year age gap, yeah, it's weird. What did it say? Yeah, it is weird. I thought. No, for lady. Is this only clergy? Well, I don't get what the question means. Yeah, where's the missing percent? The priests, the canons are absolutely. You're not supposed to marry people in Orthodoxy without with 10-year age difference, and that you need to get the blessing. So what does that show? Your intuitions often are wrong, and this is why you need the phronema of the church. And now there are exceptions. That's why, like with the canons, the priest might go to the bishop and say, hey, look, I've known them. I think this can work, blah, blah, blah. But I'll tell you an episode. So it just shows you the secular mindset, and oftentimes your intuition's totally off base from the church. And we do not make our decisions or prescriptions from secular society, but the life of the faith lived. The reason why they did that too is because priests know. I've talked to priests about this. There's real problems that arise in marriages, that their experience with why these rules come up. Now, obviously, as you get older, like what if it's like a 70-year-old man, a 60-year-old, like obviously they're less, like it's a general guideline. Those things make much bigger difference. 18 versus 28. Huge difference. That's where. So we had an individual that obviously was inquiring and wasn't Orthodox at the time. No, you don't need a blessing from the bishop to be married. Just the priest, like. But the priest could. Now, priests may do that, but technically they could get in trouble if they didn't actually go to the bishop and say, look, we've got this issue. I don't want there to be any problems. Can I get, the episcopal blessing? I'm standing for that. I think this will work, or something like that. Otherwise, they always have the unofficial blessing to marry people. So, this gentleman who was inquiring to Orthodoxy starts telling me, and he was like, I don't know, 33 or something. And, I'm going to find a 17-year-old girl and start dating her and then marry her at 18. And I'm like, wait, are you a perv? Like, what's the matter with you? So me intuitively, even apart from Orthodoxy, would be like, there's something weird about that. And then there was this whole explanation of, which I knew, I'm like, that is not what's motivating you. That, it's ripe for bearing children at that. I'm like, that's not, I could just see through it, right? Then I'm like, it's weird and pervy. And the other thing too, think about your own lives. The emotional maturity between 18 and 33, 18 and 28 is infinite. Like, that's crazy. Like, so you want to marry an emotionally and intellectually retarded person. And what I typically pick up on this, it's usually people who want to dominate, right? It's easier to dominate and control and have somebody be subservient in the wrong kind of sense when they're emotionally and intellectually immature. So I was explaining this guy didn't believe me, and I'm like, okay, go talk to the fathers about. And guess what? Person came back and was like, the father said exactly what you said. I'm like, I know, I'm not making this stuff up. And told the person, we do not marry people with a 10-age difference, except in rare circumstances. In fact, they explained, the fathers said that usually what happens is if it's the if the female's younger, the wife's younger, then they mature and grow up and they have resentment. Like, they pick up on what that relationship, and almost 90% of the time, like, people who want those age different, or have those age, like, they're incorrectly, they're controlling, domineering, like, it's not a healthy marriage. Now, the fathers also said, the priest, not the fathers, that, you know, and it's even, sometimes it's just as bad, if not worse, the other way around, but maybe for different reasons. So again, there is exceptions to that, and the priest would make those exceptions if they know you. But notice the Orthodox way. Lean not on your own standing. Your prescriptions and your intuitions are probably wrong. You seek the multiple counsel of the church and her wisdom and her experience. We come into the church going, my view is wrong. Now, I'm definitely not going to make the argument, but it's okay for people outside of Orthodoxy. If Orthodoxy is the standard for healthy marriage, it's not do what thou will outside of Orthodoxy. There's rules for thee, and then for me, and then rules for thee. So know that, it is, we come into Orthodoxy going, I'm messed up. I don't know what the right prescription, I don't know what the right thing. There's a level of humility, and you go to the church and the priests and the fathers and the faith, teach me, inform me, an informed conscience on that. So, do not be, lesson here, you're probably wrong about stuff with marriage. You don't know what you're talking about. if you're laity, you certainly shouldn't be making any prescriptions either within the church or outside of the church about marriage. What you should be going to the priests who have the experience. They've done tons of marriages. They know these things. They know the canons. What you can do as laity is say, this is what Orthodoxy teaches. This is what the priests have said. Isn't that cool? So we learned something today. Crispy. There are no canons on wine moms. That's interesting, huh? Alright. Maybe one more review of something. I just don't know why people would be listening to like secular people or laity on marriage issue. Like, kind of odd. As Orthodox, at least. Yeah, 3 age year difference, 23 and 26, or 20. Yeah, that's weird. Justana, atheists be like, Halo. Monster. Well, I can tell you right there where that's it. That's Glacier National Park right there. That's Montana. Creed. I just don't see the evidence. That's actually a really... All right. Glad to see Roman. Yeah, this was news. Moving more toward Islam, Judaism, exactly as popes in Vatican II. There's Nostra Aetate. Fanatic Thomas. The angel of the Lord is not the Son of God. So that was a big boo-boo. So here's the thing. Protestants are getting upset saying Protestants are converting to... large part Protestant or a large number converting to Orthodoxy and Roman Catholicism. Maybe I'm out of the loop. I've seen some converting to and considering Roman Catholic. Are there really a large number of people converting to Islamic, Judaic, Roman Catholicism, clown mass? How did I know? Like, I just look at this. Some idiot. Let's see who this is. Obviously, if you're blocked for me, you're blocked for a reason. And then he's obviously caught another problem. Let's see who it is. It's not the Christ. Yeah, exactly. Heretic. Veritas lux mea. Let's see. Lux light mea. My truth is light. I'm trying to remember my Latin here. Am I reading that correctly? Let's see what this... LOL, that's the... How much do you want to bet this guy's 17 years old? Let's see who the followers are. Yeah. All I have to do is you got one or two block people that you're following, like, you're already sus in my... Oh, 2 block people. Look at these papists, dude. But who's following them? Orthodox and sign. Oh, that guy. Guy pretending to be Orthodox, but all he does is argue against traditional and actual Orthodox things. Said he had a blessing to teach, won't reveal who it is. Total subversive. Works with all the usual suspects. Hides behind anonymity. You cannot teach and be anonymous. And you cannot teach without an episcopal blessing. Oh, my priest said, but I'm not going to tell you who my priest... The whole reason why you have a blessing is you're accountable to you. So, you can... We should do a whole stream on who to just block. If I have these people blocked, you should just... We'll do the block list. If you want to save yourself time and torture of having to deal with these demons. Doesn't matter what amount of evidence. Look at, they just... This is what... This is like Groiper, 14-year-old Groiper, like, oh, you, gibberish, you are a J. Never can do any arguments. Yeah, who can forgive sins? A mere angel? They'll do anything and go to any depths of insanity and irrationality to defend the most ridiculous heresy. That's why you should ask, like, what would it take for you to abandon your position? I always ask this of anybody. Ask the papists, what would it take? Start worshiping aliens? Letting the Quran be read in the Vatican? Saying Muslims, Jews, Hindus, we all worship the same God? Like, blessing gays? Now letting publicly what we've always known. The guys with sugar in their gas tanks, publicly making an announcement, we receive them as priests, we're happy to. Oh, no. None of those things, like, no matter how bad the heresy is, that they would have early said, like, yeah, no, that can't be true. They will never give it up. That's a cult. Total cult. Because they just defend the stupidest words only have one meaning. These guys. I miss seeing who could like. Thank you, not Chase Haggard. They're heretics. Alright, moving back. So that was news. Heretics, hereticking. James White. Father Michael Lilly going after him. That's cool. Oh, jeez, dude. Who's this guy? Come on, Jay. Let's see it. Awesome. All right, I think that's about it. Let me, if you have any super chat. I want to see what this is.
Say about homosexuality.
Matthew chapter 19, verse 4. He says, let a man come together with his wife and let them become one flesh. He was speaking about marriage. Marriage is between one man and one woman.
I mean, what this thing looks like, am I blanking on? Oh, well.
What was the culture of the time?
Why are they so...
I think marriage is in every culture.
No, what was the culture of the time?
First off, in Romans it talks about our moral code. Do you believe in the moral code?
Oh, for heaven's sakes. You are so lost. So lost. Because what is the basic principle of the gospel?
To repent and turn to Jesus and know him.
The basic foundation of the gospel is love.
To be saved from sin and death. Right?
This Andy Warhol looking creature.
Loving your neighbor as yourself.
You are doing the absolute opposite of loving your neighbor. You are leading so many people astray into hell. And I'm letting you know that you're going to be judged worsely by God than anyone else here because you knew the truth and you didn't repent. Now listen, can you listen? Because I listened to you. I listened to you. Romans chapter 1 verse 18. Romans chapter 1 verse 18 does say that man exchanged a natural use with man and woman exchanged a natural use with woman, and God gave them over to their uncleanness and their lust.
Oh my
So
gosh,
the Apostle
dude,
Paul did talk about homosexuality. What's up?
Actually, the smugness of these people. And what is love? It's this vague thing I can define however I want. You have to love. Lazy Eye donated $5. How can there be morality without God? How does it not become nothing more than value calculation? You mean preference? Yeah. It's just psychological states. It's all subjective. There are no oughts, etc., etc. I mean, can't you just tell by somebody's demeanor, like, just like, you actually grok this, like, how many, what's the percentage of knowing that somebody has a wrong position from their, just from their physiognomy? I'd like to know. Now, did you know that AI now has like 98% probability of, speaking about fixes now, you can look at your features. I'm gonna start using this on my opponents who I know got sugar in the gas tank. But like, why are you criticizing me when you gay? Why are you gay? Why are you gay? How do you know that? Because AI just, but I'm married. You're a beard. AI, the probability that Grok and AI got that wrong, you're gay, is only 2%. Also, if you're angry and hateful and screaming, and you look and act like that, we know that more than likely there's something wrong with your ideology. Yeah, a lot by the countenance. Not everybody has that, and sometimes you're going to be blinded. I don't want to use the language on, but sometimes you just gotta boil it down to, I'll just say in the general, like, love is performing the most grotesque actions with body parts. Like, that's what love, like, because they're trying to hide in these vague, what's love? It's like, let's get down to it. What sodomy is, and the diseases and the physical problems that, like, that's you're telling me those horrendous acts to destroy the body, not even get into the soul, that's love? And you get down into the details of what those actions actually are. And it kind of clears things. That's why they always keep it in the abstract. Well, who are we to say? You know, love is love and blah, blah, blah. They never get down into the details. You don't get to redefine what love means. There's a famous Norm Macdonald where he's doing that, and I won't go into the details. I don't want to be, as clergy having to actually say the words. But what was great about the Norm Macdonald's was kind of a comedic refutation of the whole kind of pride movement. And he was like telling the story. He's like, I was down at San Francisco giving and they got the gays over there, and and the whole pride thing, and I was like, what? Dang, that's kind of a weird thing to be proud of. And he starts telling this story about, it's not like it's an accomplishment or something like that. And then he goes into, like, demonstrating, they've got this parent saying that, they're so proud of their kids, and they just, he's gay, and, he's gone to Harvard, and then he goes into a gross detail. And we're just so proud of him, and then the gross detail. And it's like, yeah. Just comedically refuting the idea, like, we're proud of this, like, disgusting, like, that's what we're celebrating as a society? Yeah. So, caveat, foul language, it's a bit grotesque, but, like, it does have an rhetorical effect of actually refuting the whole kind of pride movement of what is stupid. It's all like, again, the left's notorious for, like, just vague, undefined sorcery words, word wizardry. Just, it's willing to, like, whatever you want it to mean. Which goes back to the phenomenal concern, like, my experience. How can you? Well, first of all, experience itself is dumb. There's no propositional content. There's nothing right or wrong about what you're telling me. Is your judgment about the experience. You're interpreting meaning to the experience. You're giving a judgment about this experience matches reality or some metaphysical claim about the experience. But experience doesn't tell you anything. The senses are dumb. You had a phenomenal experience. Like, you have to rise above that and then interpret the experience and draw inferences. And the inferences that you're drawing are incorrect. They usually are for most of us. that just like Jack and Jill with the seagull example, refuting phenomenal conservatism, the inference was Jill interpreted Jack's face as looking angry. So and was incorrect. Think about how many times we've done that. But the experience, citing the experience, it's my experience. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. It's the inferences that you're drawing from that, the judgments about the experience, because the experience is dumb and isn't going to tell you anything. And so, again, all of this in terms of liberal kind of politics and social moral issues it's purposely vague, it's abstract, it's purposely designed not to communicate or be precise and communicate facts or information, but be entirely subjective and malleable to form to whatever I want, so that I win, I'm justified, and you're wrong. Total self-centered, narcissistic, sociopathic, Machiavellian manipulation. And you can call it, but and you can see it in that whatever that thing was, the Andy Warhol looking thing. Lecturing that poor evangelical Spurg about just the anger and hate. The person doesn't love. I mean, it's obviously patently obvious that people are like, oh, but we care for the poor. We have social problems. Like, no, they don't. We love and you're hate. It's like, no, you are. I can see right through. Just because you use the word, noise comes out of your mouth, doesn't mean that's true. And that. All right. That is it. It's 12:30 Mountain Standard Time. And I want to thank everybody for the super chats, their support. Don't forget, we only have 2 weeks for Orthodox MontaNIKA tickets at the discounted rate. Then they'll jump up to $185. So don't procrastinate. We are also still taking sponsors. If you have a company or know somebody that has a company, they don't have to be Orthodox, who wants to be a sponsor, and there's different sponsored packages and what you get for that advertisement versus access to events and speakers, private dinners and stuff like that. That is on the website. And on the, let me just see here if I can get it. On the MontaNIKA, it should be in the bio too. And don't wait too, because this year we're doing the first 100 registered get bags. That means this is encourage people to purchase their tickets early enough. And also, I don't know when the cutoff date for the hotel deal is. I'll have to ask, but again, all reasons not to procrastinate. David Atlas donates $5. Thank you so much. Thanks for the Saturday AM prayers and stream. FDA, thank you. God bless you, and all in the chat. Thank you, David. Anyways, go there. Get the word out too, if you could. Help advertise and spread the good news of the conference with friends, family members, and I'm going to today design a 2025 MontaNIKA telegram so that those who purchase the tickets can organize carpools, rides, etc. And if you don't want to do the hotel deal, people can split the cost of Airbnb. And of course, we have David's Ranch, which is the free camping, was about 25-30 minutes away. But that's dry camping. There are no facilities. I think David will let you use his restrooms until he goes to sleep. But just like camping. Accommodations for people with disabilities. I don't think we do, other than what churches normally provide. Like wheelchair access, stuff like that. We don't have like what is it called, audio transcripts or something provided, or facilities beyond whatever the hotel provides. Yeah, about 500 for... But people love the camping option. It's a beautiful time of year. It's before it gets too hot. But yeah, just whatever, you know, the accommodations, that because it's held at the church, what churches provide, like I said, wheelchair access, access to the toilets, but beyond that, and whatever the hotel, what normally people like hotels and churches provide as far as disability accommodations, if that's what you meant. We have His Grace Bishop Maxim coming. Father Turbo has now, I stepped down as being a speaker. I'll do a workshop. We're going to trade places. I'd rather have him, for you guys, be one of the speakers. So that's all big news. And yeah, get the word out. Help me spread the word. We have our sponsors. The newest sponsor is the 2-time Grammy winner, Ness Recorders, my brother, who will be doing sound for the live band, the professional bluegrass band that's coming. But, you know, I'm always criticized I charge way too little. That the amount of strings that I pull, like, and favors and stuff like that, I'm calling in to reduce the prices. There's nowhere anywhere in the world that provides the amount of meals and entertainment, like literally live professional entertainment, and you know, kegs and food and drinks and recordings and swag, but like everything that you get for that, for $185, it's literally impossible. But I know it's the reason why I do that is because I know that it takes more time and money to get to Montana. So that's my way of like I said, Austin, it's about 500 for, but that's all inclusive. You're like, other than, I think, for the men, because there's a women's dinner night, other than Friday evening, everything's included. Meals, everything. Hotels are extremely expensive in summertime. That's why I got the deal. They are anywhere from 170 to and up. So I've got one of the nicer hotels. They just remodeled, Butte, Best Western, down from 176 a night to 119 for a summertime rate. And it's not in Montana. Like, go look anywhere, like how expensive summer rates are. And then again, for those who want to do budget, I have a free camping option. But yeah, you're not going to get cheaper than that anywhere. unless again you might be able to split a room with somebody that could bring. I know people have done that. Bring the 119 down, or I'll chip in a Airbnb or something like that. Eddie Bro, 1999, thank you. Love you. Blessed land. Who's your favorite saint in the last book you read? Oh, that's hard. A favorite saint. It's always hard for me to answer the question of favorites. Obviously, I love my Saint Ananias. I love Saint Pantaleimon. He was our Slava. So here, maybe those are my three favorite right there. The Theotokos, Saint Pantaleimon Slava, and then my Saint Ananias. Maybe there's a reason why they're in the middle of. That's what I'm going with. The last book that I read. That's a difficult question because I read books very differently than most people. I can't remember the last time that I read a book cover to cover. Remember, I'm doing research usually. Reading cover to cover, I've read all the great books series. So I've done all that kind of. So now usually the reason why I pick up a book, I'm looking for something specific. I've got some theme on my mind. For example, for the last one that I actually referenced on something was David Otterberg's Real Essentialism, where I'm looking up, I might read a paragraph or a chapter and get something, pull from Losky, maybe I look something up in Bonjour or something like that, but that's how I read. I never read or seem to have time to read a book from front to back anymore. And like I said, I've done all that work. I've done all the hard work in undergrad and read the great books series. So I've been. Yeah, thank you, Moldy Apple, for putting that there. And I believe that's it. That wraps up the day. I want to thank you again, everybody, for joining us, who joined us in morning prayers, and then for all those who joined us in the great questions that we had today in discussion in the Patristic Faith discussion chat stream here, and for all of your support. May God keep you, preserve you, and give you good strength throughout the rest of Lent. Until next time, God bless.